totally cooperating, just with not doing anything, but I'll cooperate. Sir, I will be very cooperative. All right, let's try that, please.
At one, security cameras don't lie. People do. We open on grainy parking lot footage, a Food Lion sign humming under summer heat, an older man with 2 grocery bags sliding into the passenger seat of an 80-year-old woman's Jeep, gloved hands methodically wiping a door frame, a yogurt cup sealed in an evidence bag, an interrogation room, fluorescence, a metal chair, the measured breathing of a man who thinks he's smarter than the tape.
If you tell him to turn that off, I'll talk to you a little more freely.
Her name is Edna Subtles. She vanished on a Friday morning, the kind of morning she never missed an appointment, never missed a call. Hours later, her car will be found, wiped down and abandoned. The man in that video, he's got a past most people don't come back from. A kidnapping case, 30 years max. He came back, and now he's sitting under the same lights he once escaped, trying to pretend he doesn't know how this looks. Detectives watch him shift in his chair, study his body language. He's calm, too calm. His voice never cracks, but his words don't line up with the evidence bag on the table in front of him. That yogurt cup, the one no one was supposed to notice, sits sealed in plastic, glowing under the sterile light. They don't say what's on it yet, but it's the kind of detail that turns a missing person case into a murder. Detectives start where all good cases start: the clock. Track her route. Rewind the day. If a camera saw her, a camera saw him. And if a camera saw him, it saw what he touched. That's where a tiny purchase, the kind you forget before you reach the exit, will turn into the crack that splits this case wide open. Because sometimes the smallest thing on the receipt is the loudest thing in the room. And in this case, that little thing is about to scream. And it all begins the moment Edna leaves home. Edna is a routine person in a small South Carolina town. Friday, August 27th, just after sunrise and travelers rest, she grabs her keys to go care for a friend. She's punctual, dependable, the sort of neighbor who shows up early and never leaves a mess. At 9 a.m., someone is expecting her. At 9:01, her phone doesn't buzz. By noon, there's a hollow space where her voice should be.
Greenville County 911, what's your emergency? A fitter was supposed to show up to be with my mom today. Her name is Edna Subtles, and she didn't show up. This is not like her. She shows up like clockwork. So something's wrong.
129 to 142 officers roll a welfare check to a modest home on a quiet street. No forced entry, no overturned drawers, no broken glass, just unanswered knocks and an uneasy silence. They take a slow lap of the living room, the kitchen, the bedroom. Edna isn't here. Her coffee mug still sits by the sink. Her reading glasses rest on the counter. Everything looks frozen in time, like she walked out mid-thought. If you can find the car, you can find the route. And if you can find the route, you can find where the day bent in half. They start canvassing. Neighbors recall nothing unusual. No shouts, no visitors. One mentions seeing a white SUV passing the house earlier, moving too slow to be casual. License plate readers, nearby businesses, every camera in a 5-mile radius. Police pull them all. 6 anxious days crawl by before the Jeep turns up in an unexpected place. A hotel parking lot just a short drive away. Desk staff are helpful but blunt. No guest by the name of Edna Subtles checked in. The Jeep is parked at a clean angle, like someone took the extra second to square it. The door handles? Wiped. The seats? Wiped. The steering wheel? Wiped. Even the radio knobs look polished, like someone went over them twice. No break-in. No obvious crime scene. No timeline. Yet. This won't be solved with blood spatter or a single fingerprint. It's going to come down to cameras and chronology, the stubborn march of time and the machines that never blink. So the detectives push backward from the hotel, back toward Edna's street, back toward anything that can give them a timestamp. They talk to cashiers, pull footage from drive-thrus, search for the smallest shadow that matches her Jeep. And then, finally, the first breadcrumb pops up 9 minutes from her front door. Start at the house, move outward. That's how you build a clock when your suspect thinks he hid the hands. At 9:30 a.m., a pawn shop camera catches Edna's Jeep easing past the edge of her neighborhood. Nothing remarkable, just a reliable routine on a Friday morning. 9 minutes later, another lens picks her up again. The Food Lion. Doors slide open. The air conditioner sighs. On the tape, an older white-haired man approaches with 2 plastic grocery bags. He doesn't hesitate. He opens the passenger door and settles in. The Jeep pulls out. He knows her well enough to get in without question, or he's confident enough to act like he does, and in cases like this, confidence usually means practice. Hours go quiet, then the day clicks forward like a bad dream. At 1:43 p.m., the Jeep comes back to that same Food Lion lot, but it's not Edna getting out. The driver is an older white male. He steps from the Jeep, walks to his own car, and parks it right beside hers like he's done this before. He opens both vehicles and starts moving something from her Jeep into his Chevrolet. Something is the kindest word until you freeze the frame. The detectives do. They run it second by second, pixel by pixel, until a single detail bites through the static. A flash of unmistakable golden hair dragging low against a seat edge. Not a bag, not a blanket. Someone, Edna. At 1:47 p.m., the man drives Edna's Jeep away, not home, not to a friend's, but to that hotel lot where officers will eventually find it. He parks. He leans in. He wipes. He wipes the door. He wipes the seats. He wipes the wheel. He closes up like he was never there. And then he walks back to the Food Lion, gets into his own car, and disappears into an afternoon that suddenly doesn't feel so ordinary. By now, the detectives know 2 things for sure. Whoever this man is, he's not a good Samaritan, and he's careful. Careful enough to erase touch. Careful enough to choose a camera blind spot, but not careful enough to avoid a cash register. Those 2 grocery bags he carried to the Jeep, they came from a purchase, a receipt, a timestamp, a face on an indoor camera that can't be wiped down. The store even had a loyalty card scan, one that leads them straight to a name. And the moment they pull that footage, the mystery man gets an identity. Daniel Prince, a man who once served 30 years for kidnapping. Now, back in circulation, and back in the same kind of story. Detectives confirm it through the Food Lion purchase. 2 grocery bags, a single receipt, and a timestamp. They match his debit card exactly. The logic was simple. If he walked out with bags, he had to pay. And if he paid, the system logged him. When they pull the store's indoor footage, his face fills the screen. No disguise, no hat, just calm, casual movements, like a man who's done this kind of thing before. The clerk remembers him, talkative, polite, even helpful. He joked about running errands for an old friend. It all fits a pattern that goes back decades. In 1997, Daniel Prince was convicted in Michigan for kidnapping a 67-year-old widow. He served 12 years of a 30-year sentence, paroled in 2009. After his release, he kept quiet, moved south, built a new identity around a small repair business. Flyers read, "Reliable handyman, fair prices." Neighbors describe him as nice, soft-spoken, good with older women who lived alone. The same type of woman as Edna Subtles. The same type of woman as his victim in Michigan. When detectives chart his moves, a map lights up from Michigan to North Carolina, then to Traveler's Rest. The same pattern. Older clients, trust earned slowly, a promise to help with errands. He blended into every town like background noise, until the cameras caught up. But at this point, investigators still don't have a body. And until they do, the case is built on behavior, not proof. The question that hangs in every briefing, is she still alive? If she is, the clock matters. Every minute after that Food Lion video counts. And Daniel Prince is about to find himself back under fluorescent lights he knows all too well. He's arrested on probable cause, grand larceny of a vehicle, and detectives move in fast. They execute a search warrant, seize his car, his clothes, his phone. When they cuff him, he doesn't flinch. He smiles slightly and says, I'll be very cooperative.
Cooperating, just relax. Not doing anything without cooperating. All right, oh my God, stand up on your feet. Stay right there. Yeah. Sir, I will be very cooperative.
Inside the interrogation room, he sits upright, composed. No anger, no denial, just a calm, steady rhythm. The detective starts soft.
What do you do now?
I do a lot of home remodeling, home repairs. I was 13 and a half years for that.
Oh, wow.
I did 1.5 years for a false statement on a vehicle title. You know,
The rapport phase drags on. He talks about his time in prison, says he made mistakes, says he found God, says he learned patience. Then the real questions start. Detectives don't argue. They let him spin it out. Then they slide a couple of pictures across the table. On the screen, him stepping into Edna's Jeep. Then, hours later, wiping it down at the hotel. He freezes.
That's not you on the 27th? Food line parking lot, Traveler's Rest?
I don't think so.
That's not you.
That's me. Where's that?
Investigators already have the mud samples from his own car. Off-road mud, thick with red clay, the kind that only comes from the wooded backroads outside Traveler's Rest. Prince says he pulled into a roadside for sale truck.
Where did you leave? Oh! I can tell you exactly where she and I had gone off-road, please. When we were going from 25 south.
As the hours pass, the calm starts to fade. He fidgets, rubs his hands, stares at the wall. He's cornered, but still betting on patience. He's done time before. He knows how long silence can protect him. But this time, he's not up against belief. He's up against data, and data never blinks. The search team hits his property before dawn. Inside the workshop, tools, paint cans, boxes labeled repairs, and a few things that shouldn't be there. Firearms. Prince is a convicted felon. He's not supposed to have any. The discovery gives investigators leverage, but it's not what breaks the case. That comes from something small, something he bought that morning at Food Lion. A single yogurt cup. In the lab, technicians run tests. Inside that yogurt is a chemical mix, lorazepam, tramadol, and cyclobenzaprine. 3 drugs that, when combined, slow your central nervous system until you can barely move or breathe. Not enough to kill instantly, enough to sedate, confuse, and silence. When detectives overlay the lab results with the CCTV timeline, it all clicks. The limp movement in the Jeep, the way her head tilted as he lifted her. Edna didn't fight because she couldn't. He drugged her, moved her, staged her car, then cleaned every inch to make it look like she'd simply vanished. Forensics pin it down as deliberate. The cocktail wasn't accidental. It was measured. He knew what he was doing. The yogurt cup, something no one would have noticed, becomes the loudest piece of evidence in the entire case. And for detectives, that's the moment it stops being a disappearance. It becomes premeditated abduction, controlled, planned. The kind of crime Daniel Prince had already practiced once before. The difference this time? The cameras were watching, and what they capture next will finally reveal what happened to Edna Subtles. When the interrogation resumes, Daniel Prince is done pretending to cooperate. He leans forward, eyes steady, voice low.
If you tell him to turn that off, I will talk to you a little more freely.
The lead investigator glances toward the mounted camera. A pause. A nod. The red light blinks out. But what Prince doesn't know is that standard procedure keeps an audio backup rolling quietly in the corner. That audio will end up being the most valuable thing recorded in the entire investigation. The silence stretches for a few seconds. Then Prince starts talking. Not fast, not frantic, calm, measured, like he's been waiting for someone to ask.
Okay, let's put it this way. A person I was very good friends with wanted to do something to put someone basically out of their misery that was very closely related to them. That's one body. That person started having an extreme amount of guilt over this.
He doesn't cry. He doesn't apologize. He calls each victim by their first name, as if they were still alive. To him, they weren't people. They were unfinished jobs. When the recording stops, investigators map the pattern. Elderly women, living alone, trusting the helpful handyman he'd gain access, gain power, and when the moment came, take control completely. predation disguised as kindness, murder disguised as mercy, and for years no one noticed because his victims were supposed to be fragile, fading, forgotten. That night, the detectives replay the audio again. They pause after every line, matching his timeline against the missing persons reports. Every city he mentions connects. Every month, another disappearance. By midnight, they've marked 4 confirmed deaths and 2 open cases that now look identical. The next morning, detectives meet with prosecutors. This isn't a single disappearance anymore. It's a pattern spanning states, decades, and identities. And the man who wanted a little control is about to lose all of it. In the end, Daniel Prince wants a deal. He knows the evidence is airtight. The audio, the receipts, the DNA on the yogurt. So he bargains. He'll tell them exactly where Edna Subtles is buried. In exchange, the case goes federal. He avoids the death penalty and gets life without parole in a federal facility. Better conditions, he says. Less noise. He's not thinking about remorse. He's thinking about comfort. He spends the next few days drafting a map. Hand-drawn, crude, but exact. He marks the spot with an X and writes, "Behind shed, east corner." When asked why he's cooperating, he smiles. "Because it's over," he says. "And I don't want the wrong man blamed." May 16th, 2022. Search teams move through a wooded area near his property in Rutherford County. Dogs bark, digging teams rotate in shifts. The air is thick with humidity and silence. After 6 hours, they find it. A disturbed patch of ground behind an old shed. Inside the shallow grave are the remains of Edna Subtles, her jewelry still in the soil beside her. Forensics confirm it within hours. Her family gets the call that night. After 9 months of uncertainty, they finally have her back. Her daughter identifies the jewelry, her voice trembling as she says, "That's hers." Prince is charged with multiple homicides, federal time for the weapons, state and federal coordination for the murders. The result, a full life sentence, no chance of parole. The courtroom is quiet when the verdict is read. No reaction from him, just that same calm, practiced silence he'd kept since day one. When the judge asks if he wants to speak, he simply says, "No." Reporters note how still he looks. One even writes, "He sat there like a man waiting for a bus." For the families in the gallery, it feels like the end of a nightmare that had no sound. Control. That's the thread running through everything Daniel Prince ever did. From his calm tone in the first interview, totally cooperating, to the way he stalled for time, managed questions, and tried to bargain for comfort. Even after death, he tried to dictate the terms. The pattern is almost clinical. Older women, trust gained through help, financial control, isolation, then disappearance. For detectives, the breakthrough came from the smallest clues imaginable. 2 grocery bags, 1 receipt, 1 yogurt cup with traces of sedatives, and a handful of surveillance cameras pieced together second by second until they built the timeline he thought he erased. It wasn't strength that brought the case home. It was patience, and a team that refused to take no clue for an answer. They rebuilt her last day from seconds of footage, a trail of purchases, and a man who thought his charm would outlast the evidence. Edna Subtles' portrait now hangs in the sheriff's office. A quiet reminder that even when predators hide behind good manners and calm smiles, the smallest trace of truth, a timestamp, a barcode, a single fingerprint, can still bring light to the dark, because no one really disappears. Not forever.